Hello everyone, I'm continuing my look back at Kenner's Power of the Force 2 line from the 1990s, this week with a slight change in pace as I look at the 3 3/4 inch scale Jabba the Hutt and Han Solo action figure pack. Now, this set was released especially to tie in with the special edition re-releases on the cinema back in the late 90s. And of course, this version of Jabba the Hutt is based on his CGI appearance from that deleted scene that was included in A New Hope but wasn't in the original release back in 1977. As a result, he looks quite different to his appearance in Return of the Jedi. This is a younger, more agile Jabba the Hutt and looks very different. Okay, so looking at the packaging, this is an oblong box. We have a window display which initially showed the Han Solo figure. Sadly you can't see mine because he's been removed from the packaging. But the actual front of the packaging itself is really quite nice and attractive. Of course, it's keeping the Kenner branding from the time with the Darth Vader helmet there, the Star Wars logo, that green lightsaber branding. But we do see an effort to create a sort of sand dune sort of base for them to be walking on, and then a photo of the two figures on display. All in all, this is quite a simple design, but very effective and really colourful and attractive when it was on the shelf. When we flip the packaging, we have that same image again in the top right hand corner of the two figures. We have some more logos, and then in the bottom left hand corner we have this film still from A New Hope of Han and Jabba together by the Millennium Falcon. Now of course this is taken directly from A New Hope, and I think the idea is that you're supposed to cut this out and collect them almost like trading cards. It includes some of Jabba's vital statistics here, including his height, his length, his homeworld, different things like that. So this is, I suppose, his added value, I guess. Now, I never cut these out. I don't know if any kids ever did, but I suppose the idea was that they could collect these and just create their own fact file based on the Star Wars universe. But what's more exciting to me is on the right-hand side, we see these other figures and vehicles that are available in this collection. I love seeing this even now, and it was tremendously exciting as a kid, and we can see some really fun ones here. We can see some deluxe figures like Boba Fett with that over-exaggerated missile-firing jetpack. Don't ask me why he has this. I've never seen this in any film or any media, comic book, cartoon, or otherwise. I'm not sure why Boba Fett would need this, but hey, I suppose it was kind of taking an artistic license there. But there's some other fun things there, like the Imperial Probe Droid, the Snow Speeder, which is absolutely fantastic with the electronic lights and sounds, and then some of the other figures that were being released in the most recent wave. So all in all, very exciting stuff and quite a broad range of toys in this collection. So, looking at the big fella himself, I think it's fair to say this is a brand new sculpt for the time, obviously completely unique and nothing to be refashioned or recycled here. This is really cool. There's actually a fair amount of detail and texture to the sculpt itself. There's lots of lines and bumps and grooves and different bits and pieces which give this texture, which is really nice. Now, in terms of the paint apps, there's not an awful lot going on aside from the two tones that we see here, the base plastic mold that we see, and then the flesh tone paint used on the face. And then finally we can see a third colour, this purple, being used to colour in his tongue in between his lips there. And then if you look closely, I want to draw your attention to how they've approached his eyes, because I think this is really effective and really well done. Of course we have that outer plastic mould for his face, but you'll see there's actually a bit of depth and texture to his eyes, and that's because a separate material has been used underneath in the hollow of the head to actually give this sense of, well, realism. And I think it's quite striking. I really like the material they've used, which is a sort of clear plastic, and you can actually see the sort of cat-like eyes underneath there, which are moulded in this sort of translucent but brown looking plastic, and I think it looks really good. It actually looks quite lifelike, and it's a little bit creepy actually, and kind of unusual for this line at the time. So I think this is really cool, very effective, and actually adds a little bit of something extra to this figure, which is really nice to see. As I mentioned, there's not an awful lot of other paints being used on what is otherwise a very nice body sculpt. I do like how they've managed to blend the two tones together on the front though. I think that's worth noticing, how that gradually gradients away from one colour to the other. I think that's really effective. Again, adds a sense of realism, which is quite nice. Of course, he is a deluxe figure, so he is oversized, which is really cool. In fact, he's one of the largest single figures in the entire 3 3/4 scale line because he's so long and he's actually pretty tall as well. I mentioned earlier that the Jabba from A New Hope is actually quite agile in comparison to Return of the Jedi, and that does carry over into this figure as well, which is really fun. So he does have articulation. He has a straight swivel at his shoulder, so both arms can lift up and down, but he also has this fantastic play feature as well, that when you move this top of his head from side to side, this also swishes his segmented tail as well to create the effect of him slithering along, which is really kind of fun. A few years later, we'd get another Jabba the Hutt, this time from the episode 1 line under Hasbro. And I thought some of you would be interested to see how the two compare. As you can see, they're both roughly of the same height, but they're very, very different when it comes to the overall aesthetic, the mould, the paints they've used, the colouring, and even their action features. They're completely different. I think the episode 1 is actually quite a nice version, but that action feature of spitting out the top of the lizard head definitely compromises the overall look of his face. And I will take a look at this Jabba next week. But of the two, I have to say this one from A New Hope is my personal favourite in this line. I think this is a really nice, solid figure. It looks really good on display, and it's nice that it's got a little bit of articulation and a built-in toy feature as well. But that's not all, because this deluxe set also came with a Han Solo figure. Now, admittedly, this is simply a repackaged, reissued version of the initial single-carded Han Solo from A New Hope some years before. But if you didn't have one, let's take a quick look at this version. Sadly, he only has the 5 points of articulation, which was common with the very early releases in this line. He has a straight swivel at the neck, another swivel at each shoulder, and then a final one at each hip. In terms of accessories, Han Solo did come with his blaster. Funnily enough, mine was moulded in a blue plastic, and it seems slightly larger than the other blasters that we typically get in this series, which would also usually be moulded in a black plastic. So slightly strange. You may notice also that his right hand is quite wide, and this was to accommodate this rather larger than life blaster that he came with. I don't know whether that was specific to me or whether that was standard for this issue, but pretty unusual stuff. But all things being considered, this is a really nice set. I think it's really good that these two characters come together. It makes total sense that these would be packaged together based on that scene. It's a great way to get a Han Solo if you didn't already have one, but obviously you're buying it for the Jabba the Hutt, and this is a really nice set all in all. I think there's plenty of value here. You're getting Han Solo if you don't have one, but you're getting a really cool, unique, distinct character that is deluxe and oversized in Jabba the Hutt. And from a child's perspective, he has that toyetic quality because he's got that playability there, that functionality in his tail being able to move, the articulation. But as an adult collector, he's still quite charming because he still looks pretty good and pretty faithful to what we see on screen, even though it's through, obviously, toyetic lens. So all in all, this is a really nice set. I have really fond memories of this, and it's probably one of my favourite items in this line. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like, and remember to subscribe as there'll be plenty more videos soon.